Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. What a lovely day. It's still a little bit dark. Leaves are coming down off the ground, but fall is and winter are definitely here. Well, we're in December. What do you expect? I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert and a shiatsu massage therapist. But what I help women do is I help them get healthy and strong and smart and balanced when they are in toxic or narcissistic relationships. When you have a toxic person in your life, the stress is through the roof. The stress is off the charts. And there are many different reasons for doing this. It's so interesting because there's a lot of cool people in the world. And one of the cool people in the world is my mom. And my mom just doesn't have the same fight or flight reaction that I do. She just doesn't have the same fear response that I do. It takes a lot more for her body to react. And so there's a lot of people in the world that they're wired that way. It's not necessarily that they had a perfect childhood or a perfect upbringing. It's just that for whatever reason, their body's wired in a way that they don't have that highly sensitive nervous system, that they don't feel everything going on around them. They're able to ignore more things. And, that, of course, is a blessing and a curse. For someone with a highly sensitive nervous system like you probably do, then, that would be a blessing to be able to not feel so much. But in reality, yours is a blessing too, the ability to feel a huge, wide range of emotions of all colors and shapes and sizes. And what it does is it takes the world and it turns it into a magical land, not just something that's there, not just nuts and bolts and facts. It gives depth and imagination and color and vibrancy to life, which is really wonderful to have a sensitive nervous system. But the downfall of this, the downfall of being empathic, of being compassionate, of being flexible and understanding, like you probably are, is that there ends up being a crazy connection between love and fear with a narcissist. So there's something called trauma bonding. And trauma bonding happens many times with kids and when they're in some sort of abusive homes, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, sexual, whatever it may be. And it can be fine for one of the other siblings, let's say. They're wired in a way that they aren't oversensitive, so it doesn't bother them as much. Um, but for someone different in the household, let's say you, that can be traumatic. That sort of dynamic that maybe you grew up with could be traumatic for you. So, in a love fear sort of trauma bonding, what happens is the perpetrator or the victimizer imprints on the other person, on the person who's being victimized, their fears, their anxieties, their anger, their frustration, their overwhelm. In fact, it's sort of crazy because most of the problems that come from childhood abuse don't actually come from um, necessarily situations or experiences. They also come from the emotions imprinted on you from the person who is victimizing you. So it can take something as simple as a glass of water, someone bringing you a glass of water, and um, and if there's guilt or shame or frustration, then there's this underlying feeling. You can feel it. You feel different people and their emotions and their sensitivities and their thoughts and their feelings. And we don't always know where it comes from. And so we think it comes from us. And so when we're victimized by someone, we're not only victimized by their actions, we're not only victimized because someone may think or believe that we're weak in some way, but we're victimized because we're feeling and sensing and imprinting all of the angst and upset and anger and frustration that the narcissist is dealing with at that time. And so everyone else will look at you like you're crazy, that you start to freak out and get anxious when someone gives you a glass of water. But that's because you've associated that fear, you know, uh, with the narcissist. Now, here's this crazy love thing that comes in many victim victimizer situations. It's a lot more complicated than someone just being completely selfish and self-absorbed. There's a lot more going on. Usually there's a lot of insecurities going on, a lot of PTSD, a lot of background, a lot of mental health. And so what tends to happen is the person who's victimizing, the narcissist, they have a tremendous amount of love for their victim, not necessarily the victim as a person, but the victim as a metaphor, whatever the victim represents to them. And so they will back and forth like Jekyll and Hyde, and you're familiar with this, with the whole narcissist sort of experience. One moment there will be tremendous amounts of love and sensitivity and care and fairness. And then the next moment, there will be anger and hurt and trauma and devastation, almost from one breath to the next. So, what this does to someone is this starts to associate love and fear. That when you start thinking about love, you also think about fear. That's the trauma bonding sort of thing, where people go through traumas together. And there's that love and connection and attachment and desperation, all wound up in one big thing. So it's very confusing for people, especially if you grew up in a narcissistic household. It's very confusing because love and fear were the same thing. When you thought about somebody that you loved, you also thought about all of the fear and all of the anxiety that was around them. And so there's this connection, this attachment that we have. And it also comes with all of that anxiety and all of that angst. So, what do you do about that? Well, you do start on your healing journey. That's super important, where you start recognizing what's yours, what's theirs. You start changing your mindsets and your beliefs about what you deserve, who you are. You start to take the skills that maybe you have in other areas of your life. Maybe you have these awesome skills raising your kids, and you know exactly how to talk to them and exactly how to deal with the situation. And but you can't translate it to a different dance, let's say at work, or let's say with a romantic interest. You're not able to take those skills and utilize them in the new situation. But in reality, that's exactly what you need. You need to be able to take the skills you already have and the beliefs you already have and apply them to this wound. That's how we heal those wounds in the trauma bonding, and that's how we heal these connections. Is we start to focus on loving ourselves and respecting ourselves. And when we do that, when we practice it in situations that were previously scary, situations that your body reacts as if it's your dad or your mom or your spouse that abused you or your sibling that abused you. When there's something that reminds you of that, when you come in with that self-respect and that self-love, you start to change the story. It goes from a victim, hurting you, a narcissist victimizing you, to a more equal standing where it's a person who's troubled, who's struggling. However, you have the ability to protect yourself. It like grows us up. It takes us out of the fear of when we were a child and truly helpless and we knew it, to the fact that we're no longer helpless. We're no longer trapped. Good example you've probably heard before. A close friend of mine gave me the other day. It's about baby elephants. Baby elephants, when they were in circuses, they were tied to a post, and at the time they were too small and they couldn't pull the post out. But they got bigger naturally and didn't realize it because they felt the same to themselves, and never even tried to pull the post out, never even tried to walk away or escape. That's learned submission. Those are beliefs that you carry, that you think that you don't have any power because you've never exerted power in this area, because maybe you carry a wound or trauma in this area and you're still struggling with it. So when you start to heal those wounds, when you start to deal with that pain and fear and those associations of love and fear, that love and fear are two different things and that they don't have to be attached, and you start realizing that you're equal with everybody else, and that you start respecting and loving yourself and standing up for yourself, some narcissistic relationships will shift and change and become great. And some will fall away because they aren't ready or willing or desiring to evolve yet. So either way, the answer to break that love fear thing is to start loving yourself. And as a natural evolution, as a natural progression, when you start to respect and love yourself, you start to do more and more and become bigger and reclaim more parts of you. It's a whole process, but it's a beautiful process. And as you go through it, every day becomes a little bit better because you've got a little bit more knowledge, you've got insight, you've broken bonds, you've learned new things, so it's definitely possible, and you can't do it alone, which is why I offer a wonderful women's group. And it's super affordable. I'm doing a launch until I get 40 women in the group. When I get 40 women in the group, then we'll move to a more permanent price. But while I'm trying to fill the group, I'm keeping it a little bit cheaper. So there's a package for a year, or you can do it on a month by month basis. But the year package is going to be super affordable. So reach out to me if you want to be a part of the group. You'll be able to, get the support and the love and the help and the respect and the new ideas that you need in order to change, because you really can't do this by yourself. You can't do it just with books and videos and YouTubes. I mean, you just can't. You have to do this with community, because it's the thinking that you're in, it's the patterns that you've done, it's the trying to do it on your own. That's why you're here. And it's time to do something different. It's time to really start breaking those patterns, because we need you to be as healthy and balanced as you can. And we love you. So if you're trapped in a relationship where love and fear are the same thing, if it's, let's say if it's physical violence, you really do need to get into therapy first. You need serious professional help, because this is an issue. But if it's basic narcissistic, Jekyll and Hyde, borderline personality, trauma bonding, emotional, sorts of things going on, we can definitely deal with that, especially if there's physical components like stress or headaches or stomach aches or rheumatoid arthritis or fibromyalgia or whatever it may be. We absolutely help work with that. Okay. So pass this on if you to people you think could use it, and reach out if you want to be a part of the group, because once the group is filled with the 40 women, then if someone wants to join, it's going to be $150 a month. So you want to get in on a really good rock bottom, at least 50% off price until the group is filled. Okay. So I hope you have a great day, and it's Friday. So I'll see you on Monday morning. I'll talk to you later. Bye.